Fight Maginian first and hope the rest of the bosses behave. That's my strategy for this. The last portion of the level is terrifying, and Sigma, through witchcraft no doubt, manages to become threatening on Xtreme, both by going ballistic in his first form and using one of the hardest to track attacks in the game in his second. There's some highly specific stuff here, especially in that stretch of stage I mentioned, but given everything we've gone through to get to this point, it's nothing we can't handle. So, this is going to be my last undertaking under so demanding a guise. In the future, I plan to do more leisurely LPs of some of my favorite games in the series, like Legends or ZX. For now though, there's going to be a break between this and the next project I decide on, both because I need it, and because university is underway, which means much less free time and time I'd rather not be spending trying to ruin Mega Man for myself. You'll probably see a couple of boss rushes between here and there, but I'm going to slow down for a while. Anyway, it's been interesting to say the least. Since I've already given my thoughts on X6 about 1,000 times over, there's not much left to talk about during this last little stretch. This may work, it may not, but I figured I'd give it a try. If anyone ever wanted to know, here's a brief overview of the different games that make up the 4 main series, and where they stand to me after having played through them all so much. Mega Man X, to the surprise of no one, remains my favorite after all these years. It's the sense of foreboding and the epic mood that continues to express itself no matter how many times you play through it. X is a new hero facing a new threat, and he needs to prove himself worthy of taking it on. The progression of this game is excellent. The inadequate feel of the original character at the offset, coupled with discovering new abilities and improving gradually until a seriously impressive climax. The increasing sense of threat through the music and mood in Sigma's Fortress is my favorite part of the game. The level design, the soundtrack, and the stellar direction continue to cement this as the true successor to the original series. There's a style to this game that can't be matched. Even if other games in the franchise might be called objectively better, this is always going to remain my favorite. Legends is next. It's an incredibly charming game. The uniqueness of the concept, given everything we'd come to expect from Mega Man before this point, lends a lot to my affection for it. A load of awesome concepts and side details, the excellent weapon creation system, massive and innovative bosses, and most importantly, the sense of surrealness that pervades both the story and the ever-changing town. There's a dreamlike quality to playing Legends, something carefree and fun. Some people say the dungeons are bland and uninspired. Maybe, but the adventurous feel and the fun of playing this game will hold it above the others no matter how many versions of the classic side-scroller we get. ZX follows right behind, probably to the surprise of many. A big part of it is that ZX was the first game in a long time to bring back the feel of the original X. A sense of scope and threat, and the introduction of new heroes and new powers to stand up to it. I love the mission-based aspect of ZX. It has my favorite soundtrack outside of X1. It's one of the hardest games without degrading itself with cheapness. The bosses and stage design are excellent, and most importantly, it feels like a completed form of the Zero series, which I also love, but with reservations. All this stems to make up for the lackluster map system and travel layout, and puts it well above its sequel, which most people seem to prefer. Mega Man 2 is next, and the only reason it's not at the top is because I prefer the evolution the games took with newer series. This still stands as a perfect example of why people play these games so much. Stellar design, involved in unique levels, memorable bosses, the best soundtrack of the original series, and most importantly, a vast improvement over its experimental predecessor. Mega Man 2 is a true sequel, and even the lackluster elements absent from the more streamlined Mega Man 3 can't stop its timelessness from making this the best original and one of the best Mega Man games, period. X2 is immediately after, and like Mega Man 2, it did a lot to streamline the first game. X2 is likely the most solid X game in quality of level and boss design, music, and overall presentation. Yeah, it's the easiest, but that fits, because more so than any other, Mega Man X2 feels like the old Sonics in that it's all about speed. Almost nothing forces you to slow down like in the other X games. The freedom of movement make X2 fun for how sleekly you can tear it apart, and it's the only X game I feel didn't need any more time in development over even X1. Legends 2 now. I realize many people hold it as the better of the two, but to me, it's a stellar game, no question, but really just following in the steps of Legends. The dungeon design is superior for sure, and there are even more small details added into a no doubt lovingly crafted game, but Legends simply holds itself slightly higher to me because of the sheer leap from the norm it took, without the developers knowing how a totally new Mega Man would be received, and being a complete success at that. There's also a more adventurous nature to it that I prefer. Mega Man 3 bears almost no description, because it improves upon even the shortcomings of 2 and brings back the challenge that that game lacked. By all regards, in length, complexity, and design, 3 is the superior game. But there's something timeless in 2, beyond nostalgia, that keeps it my favorite over 3. I can't even properly defend it. It's just held its replay value better than 3 over the years. Mega Man 02 is the epitome of that series, if you ask me. It took the somewhat unpolished Mega Man 0 and streamlined it, which seems to be the pattern for second games of these series. What the second holds high over the first is its level design. There's hardly a stage here that repeats itself, and many of them are long and diverse, with as many environmental threats as there are enemies. The bosses are funner to fight and more involved, and the game feels more complete than 0, with a less demanding upgrade system and some added items or moves to fill in the space. It's easier than 0, but then, 0 was hard for sort of iffy reasons. The 0 series bleeds cool though, so presentation's gotta count for a part of it. Mega Man 9 is next, and it's almost insulting how completely games in the original series started missing the point when Mega Man 9 comes along and shows Capcom still gets what makes a Mega Man game good.